So you want to go to Costa Rica, but you don't know where to go, what to do, how much money to bring, what to wear, what the weather is going to be like. Well, don't worry, because in this video, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know and everything that I wish I knew before going to Costa Rica. Before we get started, hello, my name is Kate Weaver, and I post all things about travel, lifestyle, language, and overall vibes here on YouTube. And a few months ago, I had the amazing opportunity to go solo backpacking in Costa Rica for 18 days, and I had so much fun, and I tried to do as much research as I could before I went, just so I could have everything planned out. But there was a lot that I didn't learn until I actually got there. So I'm going to share all of my knowledge with you guys so you can be as prepared for your trip as possible. Hi guys, this is Editing Kate. Just really quick before we get into the video, I want to give you a quick little disclaimer that my goal for you as the viewer is to walk away from this video with a foundational base knowledge of how to get around Costa Rica. All of this information is based off of my own experience, and I will share as much as I can with you, but I would encourage you to do your own research after watching this video. Also, at the end of this video, check the description box for a link to a Google Doc. I'm going to share some extra resources and links on there for y'all, so go check that out. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So first of all, let's talk about how you're getting to Costa Rica. So there are two international airports in Costa Rica. The first one is Juan Santa Maria International Airport, or SJO, and it is located just above the capital of Costa Rica, which is San Jose. The second one is Liberia Guanacaste Airport, or LIR, and is located in Liberia, which is on the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. So when you're deciding which airport to go to, you need to think about how you're going to be planning your trip through Costa Rica. Because, for example, if you want to start your trip off either in the middle of Costa Rica or on the Caribbean coast, I would recommend going to the San Jose airport. Or if you want to start off your trip on the Pacific coast and make your way towards the south or the middle part of Costa Rica, you can fly into the Liberia airport. So it really just depends on your itinerary, and you can even fly into one airport and then fly out from the other, so you don't have to make your way all the way back. And one big disclaimer, if you're booking tickets to the San Jose airport, make sure you're not booking tickets to San Jose, California. I actually met a girl that did that, and yeah, she flew to California instead of Costa Rica, so make sure you read which San Jose airport you're going to. Another quick little tip is that the San Jose airport is located actually in a town called Alajuela, which is directly above San Jose. It's not too far from it, but if you have a flight that is coming in really late in the evening, or if you have a flight that's leaving very early in the morning, I would recommend booking a hotel or a hostel that is in Alajuela, Costa Rica, and not actually in San Jose, just so that the transport time is much shorter and you don't run into traffic and miss your flight. So now let's talk about which towns you're going to go to so you can start planning your itinerary. I'm going to give you a list in no particular order of towns that you need to know about. These are the ones that are the most popular. I'm sure there are some other smaller, obscure little towns that I don't know about, but just from my experience and what I heard from other people, these are the places that everyone is going to. So we have San Jose, Puerto Viejo, Manuel Antonio, La Fortuna, Monteverde, Santa Teresa, Tamarindo, Tortuguero, Uvita, Jaco, Montezuma, and Corcovado. So first let's talk about San Jose. So San Jose is the capital of Costa Rica, is located right in the middle of the country, and it has an international airport where most flights fly into. And that is about all you need to know about San Jose. There are really no tourist attractions. The most you can do is a walking tour around the city, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much just a city and there's not much to do there. I only stayed there for one night, and that was because I had an early morning flight the next day. Next, we're going to talk about Puerto Viejo de Talamanca. Disclaimer, there are two Puerto Viejos in Costa Rica. One, the one that I'm talking about, is Puerto Viejo de Talamanca, and the other one is just Puerto Viejo. So just keep that in mind when you're booking your transportation. So Puerto Viejo is on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. It is a beautiful, cute little town, very beachy, very Caribbean, very chill. It's got that authentic kind of small town vibe. There are several beaches you can go to. There's even a black sand beach. There's also Playa Cocles and then Playa Uvita. Those are like the 3 most popular ones. And then of course with the beach you can go snorkeling, surfing, do all of the beach things. They also have a jaguar rescue center, and then just a 20-30-ish minute drive from Puerto Viejo is Cahuita and Cahuita National Park. I actually went snorkeling in Cahuita National Park. It was cool because I got a tour that like took us out into the ocean that was like surrounding the national park. We snorkeled for a little bit, and then they took us actually to the park, and then we got to walk through the park back to the entrance. So that was pretty cool if that's something you want to do. Overall, Puerto Viejo has just good vibes. Good vibes overall. Next up is Manuel Antonio. So Manuel Antonio is on the other side of Costa Rica. It's on the Pacific coast, and technically it is a beach town since it's on the coast, but it doesn't have that same chill Caribbean beach town vibe as Puerto Viejo. But there still is a lot to do there. There's of course the beach. There is Manuel Antonio National Park, so you can just go walking through the park. You can get a guided tour through the park, which by the way, you can either do a day tour or a night tour. Both are really cool if you want to see wildlife. Another thing that Manuel Antonio has is waterfalls. I believe there are some small waterfalls within the national park, but I went to some waterfalls that were about an hour bus ride away from Manuel Antonio called Noyaca Waterfalls. I would highly recommend this just as a day trip. The waterfalls are humongous. They are beautiful. It took my breath away when I saw them, and I would say that was one of the best things that I did while I was in Manuel Antonio. It just blew my mind like how beautiful the waterfalls were. It was amazing. So next up is La Fortuna. Now La Fortuna is named as the adventure capital of Costa Rica, and it has this name for a reason because there is so much to do in La Fortuna. I'm just gonna give you a list of basically everything there is to do there. There is zip lining, horseback riding, whitewater rafting. You can go see the mystical hanging bridges, Rio Celeste waterfall, La Fortuna waterfall. You can climb up a volcano. There are hot springs. You can go on a day or a night guided tour. There's a free rope swing waterfall that you can jump into, and then there's also an illegal volcano that you can climb up. A couple things that I want to expand on a little bit is the hot springs. So there are paid hot springs, and then there's the free option. So the paid one is usually going to be through a hotel or a resort or a hot spring specific spa. And then the free one is actually just like this river basically, and it's not really hot, but it's not cold. It's kind of like lukewarm, and I don't know exactly where it's located, so you gotta Google that a little bit yourself, or you can ask the receptionist at your hotel or hostel. They will probably know where it is. One fun little thing with the free hot springs is this is something that my hostel did. So at night, they took a group of us to the hot springs, and they set up little candles around the river, and we just sat in the river in the candlelight, and we had drinks, and we just talked, and it was very cute. So if your hostel offers that, please go, because it is definitely an experience. Another thing is El Salto rope swing. So this is actually one of the only free activities that you can do in La Fortuna. It is a super cool spot. I wish I could have gone back a second time, but basically, I mean, it's kind of explanatory. It's just like a rope swing and you jump into like the little pond that they have there. But it is so much fun, and I definitely recommend going. And it's also where all the locals go. So if you want to meet some locals, that's the place to go. And then last thing I'm going to expand on is Cerro Chato. So in La Fortuna, in the town, there is a main volcano called AIRALO volcano. And right next to AIRALO volcano is Cerro Chato. It is an inactive volcano, and there has been a crater that has formed at the top, which is filled with rainwater. So it has a lake at the top of it, and it sounds really cool, but it is illegal to climb up there, but people still do it. And if you're up for the adventure, I think you should do it too. It is not for the weak though, I will warn you. The hike up there is about a 4 to 5 hour steep and not on a direct path kind of hike. Once you get there, you can swim in the lake, do whatever you want, and then it's also another 3 to 4 hours coming back down. So it is an all-day activity. So just be prepared for that. It is not a light little hike through the forest. You're gonna be like climbing up this mountain. Overall, the vibes in La Fortuna are so fun and adventurous and outdoorsy, and you could easily spend 4 to 5 days here just doing everything it has to offer. So next up we have Monteverde, and it is the town that is closest to La Fortuna. A lot of people go directly from La Fortuna to Monteverde or vice versa. But just be aware that getting there can be a little complicated, just like going in between the two towns. It's not a direct route because there is a giant lake. You can either take the long and inexpensive route, or you can use a service called Jeep Boat Jeep or Taxi Boat Taxi. It's pretty self-explanatory, it's literally in the name. So basically you take a bus, a shuttle, taxi, whatever you want to call it. You take that from the town to the lake, and then you take a boat across the lake, and then you take another bus, taxi, shuttle to the other town. From what I remember, I think this was about $30, and honestly, it was worth it. I could have saved money by taking the longer route, but that one takes all day, and I think Jeep Boat Jeep only takes like 4 to 5 hours, and the boat ride across the lake is so beautiful and immaculate. The views are just mind-blowing. So once you get to Monteverde, they have zip lining, guided tours, and hanging bridges, and I think that is pretty much it. There is not as much to do in Monteverde as there is in La Fortuna, but I will say that I did ziplining in both La Fortuna and Monteverde, and the ziplining in Monteverde won by far. I went with the Extremo Park ziplining, and it was so freaking cool. There are so many ziplines to go on. I think the whole thing lasted like 2 hours at least. And then they have different ones, like they have the Superman one. I'll put a little video of it right here. And then at the very end, you have to do, I mean, you don't have to do it, but you kind of have to do it because it's an experience that you need to have. So you do the Tarzan swing, and basically it's a big ass drop, and you just like drop and you swing all the way down, and it's really scary, but it's really fun. And if you're a adrenaline junkie, you will definitely like this. Pro tip, if you decide to stay in a hostel in Monteverde, do not stay at the Selena hostel because it is on a hill about a 15 to 20 minute walk from the actual Monteverde town, and I had some friends that stayed there, and they told me they just felt very isolated and far away from the town, and it was just such a long walk to get to the town every time, so I'd recommend staying in a different hostel than Selena. Overall, the vibes in Monteverde are good. There's just not much to do there, so I would only spend 2 to 3 days in Monteverde. Next up, we have Santa Teresa, which is on the Pacific side of Costa Rica on the Nicoya Peninsula. Just to give you a little reference of what Santa Teresa is like, you know how in Barbie, Ken's job is beach?
My job? It's just beach.
Santa Teresa's job is just beach. That's pretty much all there is to do. I mean, of course, you can do all the beach things, snorkeling, surfing, just hanging out on the beach, swimming around. But that is pretty much it. And if you love surfing, it is the perfect town for you. If you don't, you're not gonna have much else to do there. So all the towns that I've mentioned so far, Puerto Viejo, Manuel Antonio, La Fortuna, Monteverde, and Santa Teresa, those are all the ones that I went to. There are other towns that other people go to, and I'm just gonna tell you in one word what I've heard about each of them. So for Tamarindo, I've heard party and surfing. For Tortuguero, swamp. Uvita, whale tail. Jaco, surfing. Montezuma, bioluminescence. Corcovado, wildlife. And Corcovado is actually kind of interesting because it's really hard to get to, and I've also heard it's very isolated, so if you want to be like in the jungle doing multi-day hikes, like just straight up like in the rainforest, you should go to Corcovado. So now I've kind of given you a little idea of each of the towns that most people are going to. So when you're deciding which ones you're gonna go to, just kind of think about, you know, what you're looking for in each town. What are you looking for to get out of this trip to Costa Rica? If you want to go surfing, go to Santa Teresa, go to Tamarindo, go to Puerto Viejo. If you want to do fun outdoorsy adventure things, go to La Fortuna, Monteverde, even Corcovado. There's so much to do in Costa Rica. Just really narrow down what you want to do, and that will help you create your itinerary. Now let's talk about transportation, because traveling within Costa Rica can be a headache and a half. It can be confusing, it can take all day long, it can take several different modes of transportation, but I'm here to help you so you don't have to stress out as much as I did. So let's look at our options. Now, of course, this all depends on your personal budget for this trip. For me, I was backpacking, I was very much on a small budget. So I took public transportation and buses as much as I could. But if you've got a little bit more money on your hands than I do, you can take domestic flights. Here I have a map of all the domestic airports within Costa Rica. It seems like it's not too expensive, to be honest, to go from place to place, like about 100 for each flight. But if that is way out of your budget, the next option is taking private shuttles, which range from $40 to $60. The great thing about private shuttles is that they will take you directly from your hostel or your hotel, wherever you're staying at, to the next hostel or hotel in the next town that you're going to. So there's no like in between, you have to go to San Jose. No, it just takes you straight there. So the travel time is much less. There's also air conditioning and Wi-Fi on the shuttles. And it's just a more luxurious, kind of cozy, comfortable way of getting around. Please keep in mind that they usually only run about 2 times per day. So there will be one early in the morning around 8 a.m. and then the next one will leave around noon-ish. So just be aware if you have a flight that's coming into Costa Rica, just try to make sure that you book a later booking. Unless you have a flight that's landing at like 6 in the morning, 6 or 7, you're not gonna make it to the 8 a.m. shuttle. One super important thing to remember about the private shuttles is that you have to book them 24 to 48 hours in advance. Most of them are 24, some are 48 hours, but just make sure that 1 to 2 days before you're leaving for the next town, make sure you have that booking locked in, because if you don't, if you pass that deadline, you will not make it onto the private shuttle. Okay, and our last and cheapest option for getting around Costa Rica is taking public transportation or the buses. Now, this can be complicated. So basically all of the buses are owned by private companies, and there's not one big central bus station in each of the towns. Each company is in a different station, and also each bus company doesn't go to the same towns. So for example, if you want to go to Puerto Viejo from San Jose, you would take the Moneyyy bus, but the Tracopa bus is not going to take you to Puerto Viejo. So you have to dig around online, see exactly which buses you need to take and which bus companies you're taking and which bus station it's at. So it's complicated. I'm gonna give you a little tutorial on how to use this website called Rome to Rio, and hopefully it'll make things a little bit easier. Okay, let's get into this tutorial so you can see how it works. All right, let's first go to the website rometorio.com, and let's just say we want to go from San Jose, Costa Rica, not California, to La Fortuna. Here we go. And then, so these are all the options it shows you. It shows you you can take the bus, you can drive yourself, or you can take the shuttle. So we're looking for the cheapest option if we're taking public transportation, right? So looks like it is bus via San Ramon for $9. So this one is a little interesting because it has a stop in the middle. So you're going to be going from San Jose to San Ramon first, and then you're going to be doing a bus change and then taking that bus from San Ramon to La Fortuna. And usually in these cases, when you have to change buses in a small town somewhere, these small towns usually only have one bus station, so you don't have to worry about having to find a different bus station like you would have to do in San Jose. So it's usually you get off the bus, and at the same station, you just find the next bus that's going to the next town. And so in this case, you're starting in San Jose, right? So you want to know which bus station in San Jose you're going to. So if you go here, it'll tell you right here and also right here under operator information that the company you're taking is Empresarios Unidos. So if you go to Google Maps and you look up Empresarios Unidos San Jose, so it looks like this is the bus station that you need to go to. And just to make sure, you should check it with what it says on here to make sure you're going to the right place. So this is off of Calle 16 and Avenue 12. And yeah, that's what it says on here, Calle 16, Avenue 12. So this is the place that you're going to. And this is really helpful for when you're putting in directions for Uber. And if you're also taking a taxi, you need to tell the person where to take you. And sometimes there's going to be routes that are not going to be shown on Rome to Rio because they're not super direct. For example, as I mentioned before, when you're going from La Fortuna to Monteverde, you can take a Jeep boat Jeep, but that information is not going to be on Rome to Rio. So in those cases, I will literally just go on Google and search up place A to place B, Reddit or blog, and there's going to be people that have taken that route before, and hopefully they've shared that information on the internet. So yeah, getting around Costa Rica is going to be complicated sometimes, but in those cases you just got to dig around on the internet, look for Reddit posts or blog posts, and just see what information that you can find. I will say that the thing that helped me the most when actually traveling around on the buses was going to the receptionist or the front desk at your hostel or your hotel, wherever you're staying, and asking them which buses to take because they are more likely to know about the bus system than you are. Pro tip, bus schedules in Costa Rica are usually pretty relaxed. It kind of just goes hand in hand with the culture. You know, they're not super like strict and super punctual. So if you show up to your bus station and the bus is not there yet, don't freak out. It might take a few extra minutes for them to arrive. So if you're actually traveling within the towns, there are ways to get around like Uber, taxi, tuk-tuks. Some hostels or places let you rent out bikes so you can just ride bikes around the town. I will say that Uber is the most reliable just because you are literally tracking where you're going. I have heard some horror stories about the taxis, so I would be a little bit more cautious with that, especially if you're getting into them at night. I heard this one story in particular where these people took a taxi at night and the driver took them 20 minutes away from where they were supposed to be. He took them to a gas station and was like, "You better fill my tank or I'm not taking you where you need to go." And if you can do that, they can really take you anywhere. So just be cautious about that, especially if you're traveling alone, especially if you're a female solo traveler, just be very cautious of that. I personally would lean towards using Uber. It just seems more trustworthy, more reliable, and the pricing is about the same. Alright, so you should keep in mind how much time you need to get from town to town because, of course, depending on whether you take a private shuttle, whether you take a bus, whether you take a plane, it's gonna vary, but at least for the private shuttles and the buses, it takes on average 4 to 6 hours to get in between the major towns. The buses, of course, are gonna take longer because they're gonna be making multiple stops along the way. And also, if you're going in between major towns, you're probably gonna have to go through San Jose. So for example, if you're going from Puerto Viejo to Manuel Antonio, you're gonna have to go from Puerto Viejo to San Jose, and then from San Jose to Manuel Antonio. It's not a direct route. This can take you all day since there is about 4 to 6 hours in between each town. Make sure you schedule that into your itinerary. If you're taking public transportation, it most likely will take you all day long. And honestly, there's just no way getting around it. It's just kind of how it is. Okay, let's talk about the weather because this is going to impact when you go to Costa Rica. So there are 2 main seasons in Costa Rica. We have the dry season and the wet season. Pretty explanatory. Dry season, it's hot and it's sunny. The wet season, it's raining pretty much almost every day. And then these 2 seasons, of course, correspond with the popularity of when people are going. So the dry season is the peak season. It lasts from about December through April. And the wet season is about April through November. And of course, that is also going to affect the cost of the flights. Of course, flights are going to be more expensive during the peak season, during the dry season, when everyone wants to go to the beach, and they're going to be cheaper during the low season. I kind of cheated a little bit and I went on the shoulders of both of the seasons. So I went in May, which was the very end of the dry season and the very beginning of the wet season. That was the best time I could have chosen to go because the flights were cheap, it was not super crowded when I was there, and it really wasn't raining. It started raining towards the end of my trip, but the beginning of my trip there was basically no rain. I saw rain like 2 or 3 times maybe. So just think about it and try to hack the system, okay? Alright friends, now what are we gonna wear in Costa Rica? Now listen, when you are packing your bags, just think one word, okay? Tropical. Alright, Costa Rica is a tropical place. It's hot, it's humid, you're gonna be sweaty, you're gonna be outside, okay? So we're thinking t-shirts, tank tops, shorts, maybe a pair of light long pants, not jeans. Do not bring jeans to Costa Rica, you are not going to wear them. Of course, you're gonna be going to the beach a lot, so bring multiple pairs of swimsuits. Depending on which season you go to, you might wanna bring a rain jacket, and you might wanna bring just a light jacket, just in case if it's cold in your hostel or your hotel. You should bring a couple of nice outfits if you're gonna go out to a bar or go dance or get a nice dinner or something. You're gonna need a hat, you're gonna need flip-flops, and I would recommend bringing like adventure kind of sandals like Tivas or Chacos because they're very versatile and you're gonna be in both wet and dry environments. So they're very useful, you know, if you're going to the beach or even if you're going hiking or if you're just walking around town. And even if you do have those types of sporty sandals, I would still recommend to bring a pair of sneakers. If you're going hiking, it's probably just better for your feet. I wouldn't recommend bringing hiking boots. I don't think the hikes in Costa Rica are that strenuous unless you are an avid hiker and you're like, I have to have my hiking boots, or if you have like, I don't know, sensitive ankles, maybe you need to bring your hiking boots. But for me, and the activities that I was doing, I felt that sneakers did the job just fine. Some other packing essentials would of course be sunscreen, and I would recommend buying this before you go because it's more expensive to buy it in Costa Rica. I would also bring a book or some form of entertainment for those long travel days, and I would bring a fan because y'all, it gets hot in Costa Rica and you're gonna want to need that extra little breeze, okay? Now, things that you should not bring would include hiking boots unless you really need them, heavy clothing like big jackets or sweatpants or jeans, too many fancy clothes because honestly, you're gonna be outdoors most of the time, either doing outside activities or, you know, going to the beach or something. Don't bring too much makeup because you probably will sweat it off. Just bring the basics, you know, mascara, blush, concealer, some foundation. Again, you're probably going to sweat it off. And don't bring high heels. I mean, unless you plan on going to some really fancy restaurant, just maybe bring a pair of nice sandals. Of course, this depends on how much packing space you have. So if you're bringing 2 giant suitcases, then hell yeah, bring the high heels. But if you're only bringing a backpack, maybe consider leaving them at home. So the local currency in Costa Rica is called colones, and they have coins and bills. I don't have any of the coins with me, but this is what some of the bills look like. This is the prettiest currency I've ever seen. It literally has like artwork on here. And so the difference between the coins and the bills, obviously the coins are going to be the smaller amount of currency. I guess the best way to describe it is like 0 through 999 is going to be in coins, and then 1,000 up is going to be in the bills. So this is a 1,000 colones bill, or in Spanish, 1,000 colones. This is like the smallest amount that you can get in a bill, and then it just goes up from there. Like this is a 10,000 colones bill. And I will say, you need to know that Costa Rica is not a cashless society. Even though they are very touristy, I had to use cash a lot of the times. Just in general, I noticed that it's so much easier to use the local currency. There are some places that will take US dollars, but they don't really seem very happy when you hand them a big like $20 bill. If I were you, I would just get some local currency just to help you get around, especially on local transportation, because buses, taxis, and tuk-tuks, none of them take card. So just get yourself some colones and it will make your life so much easier. And the conversion rate between US dollars and colones is basically the US dollar is like twice as much as the colones. So for example, if I have 1,000 colones, this would be 2 US dollars. If I have 500 colones, that's 1 US dollar. So you kind of have to like double the colones, and then when you convert it into US dollars, kind of like move the decimal. I'm not very good at math, so I didn't really know how to explain that very well, but hopefully you get it. So I brought about $200 in cash with me to Costa Rica, and I feel like that was pretty good. I think I did have to withdraw some money at some point, but I would say a couple $100s is pretty good. And I would say, especially for the day that you land in Costa Rica, if you don't have any local currency, have a few small bills with you, like $1 bills, that you can use on the local transportation, because I was so lost when I first got there. I tried handing the bus driver like a $20 bill and he just looked at me like, what the f is wrong with you? You can of course get local currency at the airport, but the exchange rate is going to be higher. But if that doesn't matter to you, then just get some there just to have some with you. And for budgeting tips in general, Costa Rica is kind of the most expensive country within Latin America to go to because it's so touristy. And if you're not already paying a lot for hotels, you are going to be spending a lot of money on activities like the zip lining, guided tours, horseback riding. That's where most of my money went to. Since I was budget traveling, I stayed in hostels the whole time. And I mean, it did obviously save me a lot of money. And I just have a quick little tip about hostels. The cheaper the hostel, the more fun you will have. Because if you try to stay in some bougie ass hostel, I mean, it's gonna be nice, obviously, but the people are not gonna be as cool. Do with that information what you will. So one thing that I had to find out when I was in Costa Rica was, how do they tip? Because I know a lot of places around the world don't tip. I feel like America is the biggest on tipping. From what I observed, tipping is not normal in most of Costa Rica unless you go to some of the more westernized touristy places. So for example, if I was in some of the smaller towns, I would not be expected to tip, but when I went to Santa Teresa, which is more westernized, I was asked to tip. So it kind of just depends really on where you go. Let's talk about food really quick, because if you want to get local Costa Rican food, you need to go to a soda. And I'm not talking about like the drink, like a soda pop. I'm talking about a local mom and pop little restaurant that will have the most authentic and local Costa Rican food that you can get. And lastly, I want to talk about safety. So Costa Rica is one of the safest countries to travel in Latin America. And of course, places that have more tourists are going to be safer and nicer. In my experience, I felt pretty safe most of the time. I mean, the smaller towns definitely like felt more safe, and the bigger towns like San Jose and Lima, they felt a little bit sketchier. So just keep that in mind if you are a solo traveler. Especially if you are a solo female traveler, just be aware of your surroundings, try not to walk around at night by yourself, and just be smart and trust your instincts. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information that I threw at you, but hopefully this video was helpful. And I know doing all this administrative planning and doing everything you have to do before you go on vacation can be annoying, it can be stressful, but once you actually get to Costa Rica, you're gonna have such an amazing time. You're gonna get to see such a beautiful country, and I'm just so excited for you. Like, I already went to Costa Rica, but I'm excited that you're going. And if you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and comment below what you're most excited to do in Costa Rica. Alright, thanks so much for watching. Bye!